Well, hello there. My name is Nicola Connolly Byrne. I am the personal empowerment specialist, and you are very welcome to my podcast, Soulchats. We normally speak here about people's personal and spiritual development and how they have empowered themselves to do that. But this time, we are shifting gears and we're going to speak about health empowerment and all things perimenopause, menopause, and HRT. I have some amazing guests lined up for you who are going to share their stories about their personal journey and knowledge around HRT or the lack of it. Please bear in mind, we are not medical professionals, so we are not offering medical advice. We just believe in the power of shared learning. So please do speak to a doctor if you feel like you need to. So let's jump right into new territory. Let's get going and buckle your seatbelts. Well, Anne Geraghty, you are very welcome to my very first podcast on HRT. And I want all of the listeners to know that the reason why there is any kind of a podcast coming from me on HRT is because of Anne Geraghty. Anne Geraghty listened to a video that I released about 2 weeks ago, and it encouraged her to send me a private message. And I read her private message, and it touched my heart and my soul and my internal warrior and my womanness and everything else. And she offered to tell us her story. So let me just give you a small bit of background on Anne before we crack on, because I tell you, she's a powerhouse now. So this is Anne Geraghty. She is 53 years old. She's a wife and a mother of 2. She is self-employed. She is a wedding cake designer. Her business is called Cakes, Glorious Cakes. Anne is in the menopause since her mid to late 30s, but the last 3.5 years have been hell for her. So Anne, you are very welcome. And I really feel very honoured and privileged that you are trusting me and my audience with your story. So why don't you take us back, Anne, to what kickstarted your menopause journey?
Okay, so thanks very much, Nicola, for the opportunity to actually do this.
You're welcome.
In my mid-30s, I got pregnant. I had my 2 children, and then we tried for a 3rd child, and I had a miscarriage, and so we just put that down, bad luck.
Yeah.
Then we tried again, another miscarriage. So anyway, in all, we ended up having 12 miscarriages, and we lost.
Can I just say to you, I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
So sorry that when I read that number, I was just like, do you know what? Your story is a horror story, but the injustice and the unfairness and the unkindness of it all, that's a lot of loss. And so I'm very sorry to hear that.
So basically, after my last miscarriage, then I started to get really bad periods, and they did a little bit of investigation. So they discovered then that I had lots of scar tissue.
Mm-hmm. So what was the period of time, Anne, from the first pregnancy loss to the last pregnancy loss?
It would have been probably 3 years and maybe 8 months.
Okay, so bordering on 4 years.
Yeah.
And all that loss.
Yeah.
So what age are you now at this point?
I think I was about 36 when I had my last miscarriage.
Okay.
Yeah.
So still very young.
I know, exactly. Like, it was just, my whole world was turned upside down. I was devastated with the losses. And then I was devastated that I was never going to be able to try for a baby again.
Yes.
That really killed me. But I went by the doctor's advice. They said, just too much scar tissue.
Yeah.
So they decided then that I needed a hysterectomy. So, but 3 months later, then I was brought in. I had the hysterectomy, and like back then, nobody spoke to you about what's going to happen after your hysterectomy.
Yeah.
Like nobody sat me down and said, you can go on HRT or,
And what year was this on?
Gosh, I can't even remember the year, but it'd be 30, probably early 90s.
Early 90s,
No,
okay.
sorry, late 90s. Late 90s.
Late 90s,
Yeah.
okay. So the late 90s, you're instructed to go for your hysterectomy, and this is the advice at the time.
Yes, exactly. So anyway, I had the hysterectomy, got over it okay. Still devastated that I was never going to have the opportunity to try to have a baby again. So anyway, but 2 or 3 weeks after the hysterectomy, I started to notice like small things like my hair, which I would have had great pride in my hair, started like, it felt really porous.
Right.
And no matter how I dried it, it always looked real frizzy. The only way I could describe it was it started to look like wire, like a Brillo pad.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden I could be talking. You probably can notice now in the video, like when I kind of get a hot flush, I literally go pink from here all the way up.
So do I. You're in good company.
My hubby started to notice that, and he kept saying, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Why?" And he said, "You look as if you have a big rash coming up your chest and whatever." And then they came really, really fast and heavy, like all of a sudden. Yeah. Within 3 weeks, I was full on night sweats, flushes, couldn't sleep because obviously your sleep pattern was being broken because of the sweats. I started to notice my skin was like leather, like it just was so hard.
Right.
And anyway, after about putting up with this maybe for 3 months, then I decided to go to the GP. Again, nobody, I just couldn't believe that nobody had pre-warned me of what was coming.
Yes.
So anyway, I went to the GP and they put me on HRT tablets. Again, I hadn't a clue. It just, all I wanted was to feel better again.
Give me
anyway,
take this away.
Yes, exactly. So the GP put me on Premarin tablets, which I didn't have a clue. To me, they were just HRT. But now with the knowledge that I have, I read up on them, and they are actually made from the urine of pregnant horses.
Yes.
And they're synthetic as well. So anyway, I was on them and my life was improved like probably 90%. I was on them for a good 10 years, maybe 11 years. And anyway, just out of the blue, I had to go to my own GP. This is a different GP now. I had to change GPs.
Can I, just before you go on to that point,
yeah.
Anne, can I just ask you, just for the listeners so that they understand? Yeah. Now, somebody put a comment up on one of my social media platforms the other day to say that HRT is made from pregnant horse urine. And my response to them was, if I had to drink that through a tennis racket off a scabby leg,
absolutely,
I am drinking it with a straw, right? That's what's happening for me, right?
Yeah.
But I want you to explain the difference for the listeners and anybody who's just on the start of their journey or is not educated around it. What is the difference from your perspective between synthetic HRT and bioidentical HRT?
Well, from what I have read up on the synthetic HRT, you are at a higher risk of getting a particular cancer or things like that can happen to your body. I think stroke was another one.
Okay.
And also it can cause some heart problems as well.
Okay.
That's the synthetic one. So then the body identical one is made from yams and one is made from yam, and there's another one. Got it.
Well, they're all plant-based.
Yes, exactly. Both plant-based. One of them, the one I'm on is the Estradot, which is completely body identical. Yeah. Whereas there's another one called, I think it's something Conti. Can't even remember the first name, but something Conti. So it's half body identical, and there's also some synthetic.
Yeah, I take Estradot as well.
Yeah. But yeah, so I'm on the Estradot 50. I'm on 50 milligrams every 3.5 days. Yeah. I just pop the patch on. You can some people put it on their arms. I was advised to put it below my belly button. So that's where I wear mine.
Yeah. I was sick of looking at them. I was sick of looking at them on my belly.
Right.
Because no matter how, like, I'm notoriously anal about hygiene, but no matter how clean you are as a woman, you cannot get away from the sticky stuff around
That's right.
the patch, which aggravated me for a long time. So now I actually have it below my belly button, but on my hip, so that I'm just not looking at it.
Right.
Do you know?
I know, yeah. But I think it depends on which patches as well, because I was, actually, it's Everall Conti is the other one I was trying to think of. I was actually put on that this year while there was a big shortage of the HRT. And I actually found that patch really bad for leaving residue, that particular one, the Everall Conti.
Isn't that a bigger patch?
Yes.
Yes, I was on that for a short period of time as well.
Yeah. And I believe people are struggling to actually keep that patch on as well. They found it would come off easier than the other one.
Yes.
Which is a waste of a patch then.
Yes. So you're at the point where you're taking HRT and for some reason you needed to get yourself back to the doctor.
Yeah. So I was on HRT. Everything was like, I was 90%, 95% back to myself. Went to GP for, I can't even remember what it was for. I think I might have had a sinus infection. Anyway, I went in and it was a locum that was on, a young girl. And anyway, she said, oh, I need to take your blood pressure. Yeah, haven't been in for a while. Like, I would never really go to the doctor. And she took my blood pressure and she said, oh my God. And I said, what? She said, your blood pressure is dangerously high. And I went, well, I'm been rushing to get in here. I had to stop a job to come in because obviously it was going to be high. So no, this is not right. So then she decided to listen to my heart. And I was in my head thinking, I'm coming in from a sinus problem. Why are you listening to my heart for? But anyway, I just did as I was told. So she listened to my heart and she said, oh, I'm not happy with this. There's an irregular heartbeat in your heart. And I was like, what? She said, yeah. She said, you're going to have to go up to A&E. And I said, oh, okay. And she said, you're still in HRT, are you? And I said, I am. Well, you're not, as in from today, you're not. I'm taking you off HRT today. And I went, but why? She said, you're on it far too long. She said, and she said, oh, I need to do a breast examination. Anyway, like a clown, I lay on the bed. She did the breast examination and she said, oh, I found something there, so I'm not happy with that. And I went, what do you mean? She said, I found it like a lump. I'm going to have to make an appointment for you for a mammogram. And anyway, I got dressed and she never even dealt with the situation I went in for a sinus problem. So she just said, I'll ring the mammogram at the Mater Hospital, get an urgent appointment for you. She said, there's a letter for you to go bring up to A&E. You have to go up to A&E now. So I got dressed and I was like standing, paid her, and standing at the door of the doctor's. And I was like, am I going to die of a heart attack, cancer, or what?
Yeah, listen, I'm all about doctors and nurses being thorough. And I'd be delighted when people are thorough.
Yeah.
There's a certain way in which a message needs to be delivered to a patient.
Yeah, that is exactly. It was like as if she couldn't have scared me any more than.
Yeah, like that wasn't okay. Like somebody needed to be with you in that moment. And
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Like
so I lifted up the doctors and the kind of her taking me off the HRT kind of went down my head because I actually thought I was having a heart attack.
Yeah, well, this is what it's saying. You don't put a patient into a car to drive a car if you think she's going to take a heart attack.
Exactly.
Like, come on.
So I rang my husband, bawling, crying. Like I said, oh, she starts finding up my breast, and he was like, just calm down. I'll come in and meet you. So he came in, brought me up to A&E. Girls were fantastic. They said, no, everything is fine. Your heart is perfect. They did all ECGs, whatever. And I was let home. 2 weeks later, then I was called for the mammogram. And then those are the 2 longest weeks of my life.
Yeah.
Waiting for that mammogram.
Yeah, I know.
And then went and had mammogram. Thank God, everything was perfect. And kind of in those 2 weeks then.
And do you have lumpy boobs, Anne?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's really important for people to know.
Yes.
Is that, when you have lumpy boobs, it's really important that you get it checked out, because no doctor can see through your skin to say whether that is a fibroid adenoma or whether that is some form of a cancerous tumor.
Yes.
So I would have lumpy boobs and I have to be checked regularly, because when something new arrives, I'm like, I don't know the difference.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that is true. No, to be fair, she was probably had my best health or she was thinking of my health.
Absolutely.
But it was just the way she threw it.
I know, and listen,
it was the way she did it.
Yeah.
And plus I had no say in anything. It was like, you're doing this and then you have to do that and then you have to do here. I had no say in it. I was like a little puppy dog sitting there. Okay, yeah, okay. So for the 2 weeks while I was waiting for the mammogram, I started to notice then the hot flushes coming back. And I started probably by week 3 then I started to develop this pain in my feet that I have never experienced anything like it in my life. It was like a burning sensation, and I would be standing on my feet all day. So like it was excruciating pain.
Right.
So I decided to go to a physio, and then she was treating me then for plantar fasciitis in my feet, and like in 3.5 years, thousands I spent, thousands on getting my feet sorted. Then I started to have this really bad joint pain. Like, if you see me trying to get out of the bed in the morning, you would have said 53, more like 83, the stadia.
Right.
Like I would have to, if I was on my back, I'd have to roll onto my side, lift one leg up and out onto the bed, and then try and push myself up, sit in that position for a few minutes until the pain settled.
Yes.
Then got up and got dressed.
Okay.
And this was every single day.
My goodness.
Then I started to notice that I was forgetting things, constantly forgetting. And like when you're self-employed, you can't afford to forget anything.
No, attention to detail is a must here.
I was a disaster. I literally had to write every single thing down.
Yeah.
And I could ask my husband. I might ring my husband in the morning and say, "What do you want for dinner?" And he'd say whatever. And maybe then at 2:00 in the afternoon, I'd ring him and I'd say, "What do you want for dinner?" And he'd be like, "You rang me this morning. Do you not remember ringing me this morning?" Like little things like that. But like they were kind of laughing it off. But in my head, I was like, this is not normal. Like I can't keep going on like this, asking, especially if it was for a customer. Then brain fog. Like I'd be looking at my husband or kids or somebody, and I'd be like, what did I just say to you there?
Yes.
I'd forgotten what I was supposed to say or how I said it. And they were like, again, they'd be kind of laughing it off, but I knew this, but I had myself convinced then I have dementia.
Yes.
But that's all I had myself
Here's
convinced.
Your sister.
Yeah. I know, but it's so scary because
listen.
You can't, like how you became from having all your shit together to now having not a clue of anything.
Yeah, my concern at that point, Anne, when I was there, was that my 2 young children were going to have to take care of me, and they were only teenagers.
That's exactly what I was thinking. All I kept thinking was, my hubby is 55. Like, he's going to have to, like, dress me, feed me, wash me.
I know.
And he didn't sign up. Well, I know till death do us part, but he didn't sign up to be my carer either. I know he would do it, but
yes,
he was too young and I was too young.
Yes, absolutely.
So, like, all these things kept, like, happening so regular then that I just, like, it was getting me down really, really bad. And I had then developed this anger.
Yeah.
I would have fought with the nails on my own toes.
Yes.
I was picking rows with my family for no reason. Like, and I mean absolute. They could have looked at me crooked and I would be straight onto their, like, down their neck, giving out to them. Who do you think you are? You don't understand. Like, I was an awful, 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 awful person for 3.5, 4 years. Like, I made their life hell.
Now, I'm going to correct you there. You weren't an awful person.
Oh,
behavior was awful because of the lack of HRT. You're not an awful person.
But at the time, and looking back, that's all I can think of.
I know,
I was such a nasty, nasty
But for your own healing, I want you to divide the person and the behavior.
Yeah. And like I do now, because I actually started doing mindfulness, and I can separate it. But there is times I look back on it, and like I can see myself, like I'd be trembling with anger. Like, it was so bad. It was scary.
Yeah.
And then I'd have to take myself out of the situation in order to calm down. And then I'd realize in my head, I'm after causing ructions in there.
I know.
But in my head, I couldn't understand why I did it.
I know.
And like, my daughter as well, she's only 23, like she would have been 18, 19, 20, kind of leaving, starting first year in college. And I'd say she was praying to God she could get an apartment or a flat in Dublin, because I just was such a horrible person to be around her. Because for some reason I was probably picking on her more than anybody, probably because she was a woman and she was having a great life and I was like dying of misery.
I know.
But yeah, so kind of after 6 to 8 months then, like life was, it was really, really miserable. My hair was like disgusting. My skin was like leather. And that glow I had was completely gone.
Yeah.
And then.
So you were off HRT, was it 3.5 years?
Yes, for 3.5 years I was off HRT.
So take us to the point where you're in the car and you're listening to the radio.
Right. So just prior to that, I can't even remember, I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday anyway, I was, things had really got really bad for me personally, just with all the symptoms. The fact that I was walking like an old lady, trying to get into the bed, all this had really got to me. So I had decided that I was not going to be on this earth anymore. That
take your time. I have you.
Yeah, I just decided after the weekend I'd given my family that I was going to take my life.
Yeah.
And I had made such peace with it. And I actually felt, and no, this probably sounds bad, but I actually felt such a relief.
Yeah.
Because I knew I wasn't going to affect them anymore.
Yeah.
So anyway, 2 days later, I had to go to Tesco's to do the weekly shop. And for some reason, now I don't know why, like I wouldn't listen to Joe Duffy, like if he was in the other room, like, you know, I just, for some reason, and I don't know how and why it happened. Anyway, Joe Duffy was on the radio in the car. So I pulled up to Tesco's and I started to listen to all these ladies that was ringing in, and they were talking about their experiences and how unhappy they were, the aches, their pains, the loneliness, all this. And I was like, in my head, I was thinking, that sounds
yeah.
like what I'm going through.
You could identify with it.
Yeah.
They were telling your story.
Yeah, exactly. But then I started to realize, and then I got really, really upset in the car. And then I started to realize that all this that I have been or had been going through was all down to the fact that I was taken off HRT. Because I think in my head, I thought, but you're in your 50s, you're supposed to have joint pain. You know, you're getting old, your hair is supposed to be wiry, you're going grey. Like, I actually didn't join all those dots together.
No.
Because to me, hey, you know, again, probably because I was old-fashioned and not educated, I thought menopause was hot flushes.
Yes.
Night sweats. I never put all the other stuff, the joint pain, the brain fog, the memory loss, the insomnia, the sadness, the depression. I never put all them together. That this is what the problem was.
Yeah.
So I sat in the car, bawling my lamps out. Of course, rang poor Paul again. He's a saint. And he just said, just don't bother with the shop and come home. So I came home, and I had never really spoke to the family about what I was going through in my life. I was trying to deal with it myself.
Yes.
Very badly, let me tell you.
Yes.
And anyway, he came in shortly after me. I was literally curled in the ball on the couch, bawling, crying. And he came in and he said, "What is wrong?" And then floodgates opened. And I told him how unhappy I was, what I'd been going through. And of course he got upset then, and he was like, "Why didn't you tell us?" And I said, we were walking on eggshells around you constantly because we just didn't know what to do for you.
Yeah.
And so I told him what all was going on. And then I just said to him, "Listen, do you think, should I ring the GP?" And he said, "Well, sure, why not?" Because on the radio they had said there's no reason why you cannot be on HRT for life.
Yes.
There is no 10-year, you know, cut-off point. But because I was in with this locum, she told me, "No way, you're on it over 10 years now. Like, you know, you're just going to have to put up with it.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, rang my GP. Thank God it was my own regular GP. And the minute she's actually, this is the middle of COVID, so you know you have to ring, she'll ring you back then. And I was going through.
You were double trouble there, Anne. You're going through all this and in lockdown.
Exactly, that is exactly it. Yeah, and lockdown to me was like, I was smothered by people, because like obviously my son then was working from at home. My daughter was not traveling to college, so I was in their company for longer. And I was making their life harder and harder and harder because I was not coping.
Yeah.
Anyway, our GP rang me back, and she just said, "Can I help you, Anne?" Of course. But I couldn't even get a sentence out. I just and she said, "Anne, are you okay?" And I said, "No." I said, I'm not okay. And she said, "Can you come in to me this evening?" And I said, "No." I said, "I'm not going anywhere." She said, "Tell me what's wrong." And I just said her name. I said, "I can't keep going on the way I'm going on. I need to go back on HRT." And she said to me, "Who took you off HRT, Anne?" And I said, "Hey, the doctor that was your locum took me off it 3.5 years ago." I said, "Doctor," or I don't say her name. I said, I can't cope with the symptoms." I said, "I made a decision at the weekend. I want to take my life because I just cannot cope." And she was like, "But Anne, you need HRT." And I know.
I have chills listening to you. I have chills. All the hairs on my legs and everything are standing up.
I know. It's like, unless you've been through this, like I know people are probably thinking, "Oh, she's going to be OTT," but I can tell you, my life was misery.
Well, I don't think that you're OTT.
Yeah.
And I know that the women, and please God, some men who listen to this, who can identify, because you're telling somebody else's story now. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. So thankfully, she just said, "Look, I'm going to email a prescription for," it's called, she explained it to me very briefly on the phone, body identical patch. She said, "I want you to start that this evening, get your hubby to go in and get it." And she said, "I want to see you next week."
Yeah.
So anyway, Paul went in, got it. I put it on, but the relief of even just putting it on, it was like, what's the worst that can happen? Because I cannot feel any worse than what I've been feeling.
Yeah, absolutely.
It has to do something.
We're back to the point now of drinking it through a fecking tennis racket off a scabby leg.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, that is exactly.
And
even if she had prescribed the Perimenopause tablets to me, again, I would have taken them.
I know. I hear you.
No matter what she said to take. Yeah, I would have 10 of them, please.
Yeah.
So
stick it in my eyeball.
Absolutely. But yeah, so anyway, I started it, and within 3 days, and this is not a word of a lie, within 3 days, the pain in my feet was practically gone.
My goodness.
Like, practically gone. I didn't have to roll on my side to push myself up and to throw a leg out to try and get out of the bed.
My God.
Probably a week later, that the pain in my joints went completely. I mean, completely. Wow. Then all of a sudden, I started to notice when I blow dried my hair was lying flat to my head. I couldn't feel that wiry sensation that I had in the way my hair had gone. And then about probably 3 weeks later, my daughter came in from wherever she was, and I was smiling, or I don't know, I made a joke with her, and she said to me, she said, "Mom, I just can't believe the difference." She said, "You're just back to the mom that we always had. You were just so miserable for the last 3 years." She said, "We were afraid of our life to say anything or do anything." And I nearly died because I knew in my heart I just wasn't a nice person to be around. And when she said that to me, I obviously bawled, cried, but I just gave everything as hope because I couldn't believe that she noticed the difference in me. Because I just thought they would just push it off, like, you know, oh, she's on her happy pills, whatever. But like the fact that she actually noticed. And then my son said something to me about probably a week or so later. I went for coffee with him. Like, I wouldn't go anywhere with anyone. I would make every excuse under the sun not to have to go anywhere to meet people, because my anxiety was like, I was a ball of anxiety.
Yeah.
But anyway, this particular day, Dara, my son said, do you want to go for coffee? And I said, yeah, sure, come on, we'll go. Where do you want to go? And he looked at me and he said, you're going to go for coffee? And I said, yeah, why? He said, Ma'am, I've asked you so many times to come out for lunch or go for a coffee or will we go for a walk? And it was always no. He said, but you'd always like bark no at us. To be like, no, sure, I haven't time to bless myself. Like, and he started to well up. And he just said, this is just unbelievable, Ma'am. The difference that this has made to you in such a short space of time. And I was like, I know. And like, I've apologized to them all for the way I was. But yeah, so like within probably a month then, I was back to the person I was 3.5, nearly 4 years ago. Like it was night and day.
I'm absolutely delighted.
Looking back at, I don't know who that person was.
Yeah.
And why she was the way she was, because at the time I couldn't join the dots.
Yeah.
But all those things that were happening to me was because I was taken off HRT.
Yes. And can I just say to you, Anne, that it's very brave of you to share that part of your story with regard to your relationship with your family, because it's very hard to admit those things. Okay.
Yeah.
But when you throw yourself under the bus with truth, it's very freeing. And the reason why I'm getting emotional is because I feel your pain, because I went through the same thing with my own children, especially my eldest child, Jamie. And like you said, my son said the exact same thing to me. Yeah. He asked me a question and he got a straight answer with love.
Yeah.
And he went, oh, Mom, you're back.
Yeah.
And I said, I didn't even know it was gone.
Yeah, that's it. You just become so absorbed in the world of misery that you were in, that you could literally not, you just didn't care.
You see, this is what I was saying to my clients the other night, Anne, is that there's no one day of the week where menopause or perimenopause knocks on the door and goes, so listen, I've arrived now. I'm going to be in your family and these are going to be all your symptoms. They don't all arrive at the same time. They don't all have the same intensity. And when they arrive at different times, you just think, oh, okay, I'll accommodate that. And then the next thing is, oh, well, okay, now I accommodate that. And next of all, you have 15 different things. You're not joining the dots because you're confused. You don't know what's going on. Everything is falling apart. You're chasing your fecking tail. And you don't put them together. The puzzle is never put together.
No. And that's another thing as well, is so many women actually suffer with plantar fasciitis that it's not, some doctors don't associate that with menopause. And that is one of the symptoms, along with frozen shoulders.
Wow.
Is a massive symptom of menopause. But because I was so miserable and so unhappy, I had no space in my brain to like see that all these symptoms were because of menopause. I was putting them down to, but sure, I'm 50. Yes. Of course I'm going to have pains and aches and whatever. Yes. Never in a million years was I able to associate them all.
Okay.
That they were all coming from cancer.
And how long are you back on HRT now?
I am back on HRT 14 months.
Wow. I'm delighted for you.
Yeah, I tell you. But then, like, the other problem then was the start of this year when HRT became
the shortage.
Get it. So I ended up being off HRT this year for 3 months because we couldn't get HRT. Well, like it was back again. Like it literally came back again. And probably not as bad as it did the first time because it was a short space of time. And I knew there was light at the end of the tunnel. I was going to be able to get them in 2 months or 3 months.
Yes, yes.
So I was able to hang on to that.
Yes.
But it's like, it's just like I nearly skip into the chemist every month collecting them. I'm like, this is the best thing. I'll go without anything.
Yes. Yeah, literally.
Just so that I can have my HRT.
Absolutely. I'm with you, sister. I'm with you. So let's just have a bit of a longer conversation around the doctor that took you off the HRT. I want to share a story with you so that my listeners can recognize that, to never let themselves get into this position. Okay. So I have an autoimmune disease called pernicious anemia. And when I was diagnosed, I was in my late teens, kind of, or maybe going on 20, maybe. I couldn't get out of the bed, aches, pains, brain fog, eating rings around myself, losing weight. My doctor actually thought that I had cancer, and he was testing me for cancer first. So he was going from the worst case scenario back, right? Eventually, and you know, like menopause and HRT, the kind of disease that I have, pernicious anemia, is not taught in medical school. There's literally a paragraph on pernicious anemia. It is the most underdiagnosed disease in this country, along with fucking menopause at this stage. Okay. So I was lucky because my doctor back then, his wife actually had pernicious anemia. So you're supposed to have an average of, say, 1,500 of these particular cells in your body. And at the time, I had 52. Back then, I was the lowest person on record in Beaumont Hospital, but there is somebody who has taken my title since then, okay? So I am on intramuscular injections for the rest of my life. This disease cannot be cured, and I'm okay with that because we have a solution to this problem, and I take my vitamin injections every single month. I've educated myself around pernicious anemia. I know more than most doctors around pernicious anemia, and everything is golden, right? So a couple of years ago, I go to my doctor for whatever reason, and my doctor wasn't available, and a locum was on, and he was a young chap. And I asked him for a prescription. So my husband is trained. He gives me the injections, saves me going up and down to the doctors. So he looks up my file, and then he checks because I get my bloods checked regularly because I like to say I'm very proactive with my health. And he looked at me bloods and he goes, "You don't need to be on B12 injections anymore." And I said, "Huh? What? Why are you with that?" And he said, "No, look at your bloods. Your levels are at the higher end of normal with your B12. And I was going, "Okay." And he said, "So like, you don't have to take them anymore. So I'm not issuing this prescription." And you know, when you have, and this is what I want my listeners to hear, when you have that gnawing feeling that something is just not right.
Yes.
That is your gut instinct screaming at you to give it the attention it needs. Okay. Yeah. And this is one of the reasons why I help women with finding their voice, using their confidence, establishing their values, their boundaries, and all them things. Now, I'm not backwards and coming forwards, Anne. I'm really not. But that man that day convinced me that I didn't need these injections. And again, the gnawing feeling. And I'm wrapping up and I'm putting my jacket on and I'm walking towards the door and I'm like, I'm not comfortable with this. And I said, "Can I ask you a question?" I said, "Do you know the difference between pernicious anemia and regular anemia?" And he goes, "No." I said, "Well, hold on, pal. We're having a different conversation here." The coke came back off. I sat him down and I explained the difference between pernicious anemia and anemia. And the difference is the intrinsic factor in my stomach doesn't work. So even if I was to eat raw B12 for the rest of my life, my body is never going to be able to absorb that. So his face twisted and he said, "I'm really sorry. There's your prescription. Off you pop."
My God.
I wanted to share that with the listeners so that they know.
Absolutely.
And it's not only you, it's not only me, it's everybody who doesn't ask questions. Your body, your decision, your service, your HSE or NHS or whatever country it is that you're listening to this podcast in. You make the decisions. You are driving the bus. You are in charge.
Absolutely. That is exactly it. I will never let a doctor dictate to me again the way that I was dictated to that day, because I just assumed, doctors are on a pedestal and, you know, just do as you're told kind of thing. We're the experts.
Yes.
But it'd never, ever happen again.
No.
And even the GP who I rang the evening, I decided wasn't taking any more. My own GP, she actually said to me, but why didn't you ring me, Anne?
Yeah.
Before now to let me know you were off HRT. And I said, now this is how stupid I was. I assumed that the locum who was standing in for her would have left like a post-it
of any changes.
Yeah. On stuck to the laptop to say, oh, by the way, I've taken Anne Geraghty off HRT and I've taken Mary off this, or I was that stupid.
No, you weren't stupid. You weren't stupid. You trusted.
Yeah. I assumed she would have got a little note say, by the way, Anne's off HRT. She said, no, that's not how it works, Anne. She just shouldn't have waited this long.
Yeah.
And then it made me feel bad in myself that I did wait that long. But I assumed the locum was right, that I potentially was going to get all these illnesses.
When you break down the word assume, you make an ass out of you and me.
Yeah.
So let's not let anybody who's listening to this podcast assume anything going forward until you have all of the information in front of you and you arm yourself with the bullets of information that you need.
That is exactly it.
The other thing that I want to say to you is, and I wrote this note down when you were speaking, you said I was like a puppy dog saying yes. How are you now with your yeses?
Oh, they're very far, few and far between, I can tell you. I question everyone and everything.
Yeah.
Like I will not just, like even for any other medication that I'm on, I want to know why I'm on it. And I want to know what's it going to do for me, whatever else. Whereas before, of course I'll take it.
Yeah.
Because I just, of course, you know what you're talking about. I haven't a clue. Sure, I'm only a housewife. But I will question absolutely every single thing. Like even the GP who I go to, and thank God it's never been a locum. I go in now with like a notebook.
Yes.
Down.
Yeah. Oh, I go everywhere with that notepad. Oh my God, that notepad is everywhere with me. Yeah.
And I asked, there's a Facebook page that I'm on, the Irish Menopause, which is an excellent page for women.
It's a phenomenal resource.
Absolutely. And they would be talking about progesterone and estrogen and all this. And I actually didn't know what was what. So I went in with all the information then the following week when she put me back on the patches. And I said, can you just give me a breakdown of what all these things are? And she quite gladly did. And she was brilliant. But whereas before I would never have asked anybody anything. I just, if you go in there and take that, it'd be a good little girl. Like.
Yes. Well, let me go back to you saying, oh, well, I'm just a housewife. Let me tell you something about housewives. They are business owners. You are managing your business from the top down. You are a finance director. You are a counselor. You are a travel expert. You are a nurse. You are a doctor. You're a chef. You're all them things. So I don't ever, on my shift, Anne Geraghty, want to hear you putting yourself down like that again. We won't be having that.
But see, it wasn't even that I was putting myself down. I was in my head thinking, she's only a housewife. Off you go now, like a good little girl. Do as you're told.
Okay.
Yeah, no. I would, like, no, having said that, when I was going through the 3.5 years of hell, I probably was like that. I was a nobody.
Yeah.
Very angry nobody.
I wish I had known you.
I know. But like nobody knew I was going through this. This is like, I have friends, because after actually when I was on Joe Duffy, friends then started texting and ringing me and they'd be like, Anne, why did you not reach out? Why didn't you tell somebody? Yes. I couldn't tell anybody because I was so angry. I was so sad. I was so depressed. And I didn't like how I looked as well because my hair, my skin, all these things. I wanted to be hidden away.
And can I ask you a question, Anne? You said there, I couldn't tell anybody, right? But everybody has choices. So you chose not to tell anybody. And can I just ask the question, was there shame around that, Anne, speaking about
it? The shame for me was how I treated my family.
Okay.
That's my biggest shame, was the way I just treated.
And were you embarrassed about speaking about it, Anne?
I probably was at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have been, because it's because I was going through menopause from my 30s, where my friends were only coming into menopause, 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So like,
you were out of sync with the rest of them.
Pardon?
You were out of sync with the rest of your tribe.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
And so that probably was another element of it, why I couldn't speak about it, because I was so far into it. They were only coming into it. And plus, I didn't want to scare anybody.
Yes.
I didn't want to tell people, yeah, your life is about to end, because you're not going to be able to walk. You're not going to be able to.
I know.
Do all these things.
So, Anne, can we just, before I ask you my last question, can we just put a pin in this so that everybody can remember the importance of sharing stories?
Yes.
We're Irish. We're storytellers.
Yeah.
We're great at a welcome. But it like, the reason why I share so many personal stories out on social media is simply because I know that I'm telling somebody else's story, and I never want anybody to ever feel as isolated or as lonely as I have ever been lots of times in my life, for lots of different reasons.
Yeah.
And I've been given a gob big enough to talk, and I may continue to use it. So can we just make a deal that shared stories are really important? Because I know that your story, Anne, is going to affect positively thousands of people, by you allowing yourself to be so brave and vulnerable. Yeah.
And like, if you asked me 3 years ago, 4 years ago, to share this, there's not a hope. Like, anyone will tell you, I am the last person that would, put themselves out there for anything. But since last year, I have spoken probably 4 or 5 times now.
Brilliant. And look, the confidence on you. Sure, you're right. You've offered it to me.
I know, but like, but I am only doing it, and like, I'm not trying to be, the Holy Mary. But the only reason I am doing this, is because I don't want anyone to go through.
No, and neither do I.
That's the only reason.
Now, and thank you for that. Now, my last question for you: have you any last bits of wisdom, of bits of nuggets of gold that you can give to the listeners that you wish you had known back then? If you could go back and advise yourself, what would you say?
Oh, what would I say? Well, probably the first thing I would have done was made an appointment with my GP the day after I was at the locum.
Okay.
Because I wouldn't be here in this position now.
Okay, so use your voice.
Yes, absolutely. And question everything.
Okay.
Don't
so
assume.
The take-homes are: question everything, don't assume, go with your gut, listen to your instincts, use your voice. Yeah, absolutely. And listen to your body as well. Your body is crying out for a reason. Oh, your body talks. Your body talks every day. Yeah, absolutely. And it's happening for a reason. Like, don't just because, like, especially the joint pain, that's not because you're getting old. That's because your body is depleted of HRT, which keeps your body running. Yeah. You're a legend. We leave it there. Thanks very much. Thanks a million. We'll be in touch again. Take care. Okay. See you. Bye. So guys, I really hope that you enjoyed that podcast as much as I enjoyed recording it. If this is something that you're interested in, keep an eye out for future podcasts or the previous ones that I've just released. And if you would like to continue your personal or spiritual development journey with me, I would be absolutely delighted to have you, and so would my team. Check out my website, nicolaconnollyburn.com, and go to the personal development section and fill in the forms and join one of the groups, either Soul Steps or Soul Works. We'll see you there. Take it easy. Slán.